just sitting in a box blind with a Pulsar Helion XP50Pro. This is a discontinued model, but I think the price is very attractive for what it stands for.
Pulsar Helion2 XP50Pro. My motto has always been, it doesn't have to be the latest and most expensive gear. Last week I stopped by my trusted hunting gear shop and they just happened to have this Pulsar unit on the clearance. They were letting it go for around 2,100 bucks. Oliver handed it over to me on the spot and let me try it out. Big thanks to Waffenbecker in Hagen. This model is technically discontinued. It launched in 2021 and was phased out by the end of 2023. It had been sitting in the shop for quite a while, so back when it was new, it went for around 3,590 euros here in Germany. I've checked on the prices for the US, UK and Australia as well. US prices were around $4,400, UK 3,500 pounds, and Australia was like 7,000 Australian dollars. Used units are now selling for as low as 1,500 euros here in Germany, and leftover new stocks like this one typically goes for anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 here in Germany. I found this item in the US for $2,500, 2,800 pounds in the UK, and around 4,000 Australian dollars. So personally, I'd recommend to take into consideration that the battery needs to be replaced first, which costs you some extra. Eventually there should be a decent price gap to the successor as well. The T-Lors XL50 runs for about 3,800 euros here in Germany. Now for the specs. 640 by 480 pixels with a 50mm lens. Lens brightness is f1.2, so pretty up to date, and the NETD is under 25 millikelvin. That means it can pick up really subtle temperature differences, definitely a high-end feature. And you can really see it in the image quality. For me, field of view is always a key factor. It's 22 yards at 100 yards distance. So you're getting a pretty narrow image angle, ideal for open fields. I took it over the weekend in both fields and forest conditions. Of course, it has multiple display modes, red hot, white hot, monochrome, you name it. The purple mode's a little bit flashy and I wasn't too crazy about the red one either. In the end, I went with the sepia. It's really easy on the eyes at night and doesn't cause any eye fatigue. Most of the footage I shot was in sepia mode, so. It's got digital zoom up to 20 times plus a picture-in-picture zoom option. Personally, not my favorite, but some folks might like it since you don't have to keep pressing the zoom button in the back all the time back and forth. There are also various sensitivity modes like rocks, forests and stuff like that. So you really have to test them in different situations to see what works best for you. A lot of it depends on ambient temperature, so it's hard to give a one-size-fits-all recommendation. Just try it out. What blew me away was how detailed the environment looked like. Leaves, bark textures, super sharp. I was sitting in a box blind in our hunting ground and the only animal that showed up was a badger that night. But I've got to say the image of the badger itself was kind of a little bit disappointing for me. The surroundings looked amazing thanks to the high sensitivity, but the animal's body came off a little bit too overexposed for me, too bright compared to the background. The finer details like the head, which emits more heat, were blown out. I've included a comparison shot from the Lemke Kyler 1, also showing a badger. The Kyler handles exposure much better, so you can tell from the darker background. So I really wish a wild boar sow had walked into so I could have tested it if her teats were also getting blown out and I would have missed that important detail. The XP50Pro sensitivity is definitely still up to date, so you can clearly see where the badger touched the ground, which is pars, and even the trail it left behind. Following a fresh blood trail with this thing shouldn't be a problem. Same deal with the field. A glowing deer body is clearly visible, but again, details are kind of lost due to overexposure. Of course, all of this depends heavily on distance, just like with a regular digital camera. If the automatic exposure setting sees small bright objects in the frame, it tends to blow it out. I think the software could have handled this better, but maybe a tweak on the auto exposure algorithm would help. Back to the positives. The build quality is fantastic. It's got a solid metal housing, and as a cameraman, I really like the hand strap. So you can slip your hand in, and even if you just hang it down, or you can't just drop it, that's a big win. The housing is super well made. You get a rotating eyepiece like this here, and as a person wearing glasses, you can just flip it down. So everything well put together. Even the battery mechanism is solid. You can pop the battery easily out like this and take the battery out. And yes, it has a removable battery, which you can still buy for about 90 euros here in Germany. Shouldn't be a problem to get it anywhere else. So in that sense, it's future-proof. Another big feature, interchangeable lenses. And that's a big plus, which isn't something every thermal device offers. There's a release button up to the front. I just show that here, like this. And you can just take the lens off and change it, swap it to another one. Besides the 50mm lens, which is just mounted here, there's a 38mm and a 28mm lens available. If you get lucky, you can find a used 28mm lens. And for me, that would solve the device's biggest problem. The issue isn't with the Pulsar itself, it's with the 50mm lens, for me personally. When you're stalking or just walking to a hunting stand or back on the car, navigating with a 50mm lens, field of view is really tough. I was out in pitch black darkness, and even though I as a cameraman know how to handle a camera steadily, with a 50mm lens in your hand, it's just too shaky and you don't see enough of your surroundings. I actually struggled to even find the trail. That's where a 28mm lens would be the perfect fix. On larger open fields though, the 50mm is just right. Nice detail, and deer even far out on the brush, about 80 yards, were easy to spot. Still the same issue, the animals themselves show up really bright with little detail, so again, a little bit overexposed. Black hot mode didn't really improve things either. So the thermal signature is just too strong across the board. Even adjusting contrast and brightness didn't make a big difference. Battery life was decent. After about 3 hours, it was still at roughly 50%. Keep in mind, this unit has been sitting in the shop for a while, so a new battery probably would make even a better job. At 620 grams, which equals 22.2 ounces, this isn't exactly lightweight. For comparison, I've included a compactor HIC micro unit, just like this, and this is some difference in size. So if you're into stalking and using the 28mm lens, that might work in terms of having the right angle, but the weight for your hand might be a little bit challenging. All in all, this is a solid thermal imager. If you can get a good unit, a used one or a brand new one like I could get it here, an XP50Pro, go for it. Add a new battery and maybe a 28mm lens, and you've got a great setup for both field use and stalking that will serve you well for years to come. If you like our content, feel free to leave a like, or even better, subscribe. We regularly post content all about night vision, thermal imaging, and hunting optics.